Perception. What is that? Perception. When you see somebody, you see them a certain way. Perception, perceptive, perspective, you know, seeing reality different ways, seeing life different ways. One sees me and says, "Oh, that guy's just a vagrant. He's just a hobo. He just likes to live in the street." No, that's not what this is. This channel is about me coming up, me, gaining experiences that I want. Like, do you see my videos about me hurdling? Do you see me doing videos about, running not just hurdle drills, but like, football drills? I'm gonna throw football with somebody one day. You know, we actually learned, a little bit of, martial arts. Nothing crazy, just a little defensive move. Jiu-jitsu, Kempo, karate. I don't know why it was called that, but that's what the place is called. But this channel is about me doing fun shit and making friends along the way, becoming famous, but not so much that, but perception, right? The way I'm making videos all the time and other things might make somebody think that I'm trying to be like the most, known person everywhere I go. People know me, not necessarily, you know, more so for me, because I'm a guy that likes things. I need to have more stuff. I've had my shit stolen from me. People, you fuck around too much, especially Americans, like me. Like, y'all gotta calm the fuck down and just out niggas out. $5, like, weak ass money helps me out. How about that? But we need real money coming in. When I'm saying this stuff, perception, right? Because this is the title of the video. One person can look at me and say, "Oh, that guy's a, like that because he's a devil worshiper, or he's a, a guy that likes to just, fuck around and be nasty and do all this stuff." This is a hairstyle. Now, it don't look the best, but that's what I do on this channel. I had to have a personality, just like I do when I'm on my other channel. But this channel is about, being more real. I'm trying to have my, money right. I'm trying to, do certain physical activities that I like to do. Like all kind of shit, not just one thing. You want to see me do more of one thing, you gotta get me like track spikes. You gotta like let me fuck around on a football field. You gotta let me fuck around at the batting cages. You gotta let me fuck around, and show you like, my weightlifting and like I can challenge people, in all kind of ways. Not just that shit. Oh, I play video games. I play, card games, all kind of stuff. I like to fuck around with women. That's what I really want to fucking do. And then when I say that, people start to think, oh, certain people might, certain hoes will be like, oh, well, he ain't really like that. He's just playing game. No, I like to fuck around with hoes. You know, specifically, porn stars and OnlyFans models. And there are some girls that I think about that and these girls ain't from my past. These are girls from like, you know, the internet, And now I do see girls when I'm out, and here in Las Vegas, boy, I see some girls. But I'm trying to find those girls specifically. And I hit chocolate pool, and I know they hear me and stuff. They fuck around too much. They need to like remember that I'm out here and I do exist. You know, perception. People, one person can look at me and be like, "Oh, that guy's great." I would do anything for this guy. Other people will look at me and say, that guy don't do enough. He's lazy. I don't like him. It's based off of how that person feels, how that person thinks, you know, how they have moved in their life to then see me and then be like, oh, well, you ain't doing what I'm doing, so you are probably not somebody I need to be around, whatever. Either way, you still need to subscribe to the channel, and not just this channel, the other channel too, and, let your opinions be known. Now, I'm not going to change. To get me to change or do what I'm doing better, because that's what all I'm going to do is do what I do better. I'll look better, dress better, I'll be faster, stronger, I have more shit that I want. This is just a channel where I talk about my fucking life, basically, and live my fucking life. And, people around for the journey, other influencers can get on here, and even people who are like Americans and shit. I love my country and shit, but I don't like talking about politics. Politics is not a thing here. Living life is a thing here. You go to that old man for politics, and that's another thing. Perception. I'll say it again. When I say perception and other things, certain people like to overthink things and be like, oh, well, he's just trying to be like this guy or this guy. No, I'm not trying to be like this guy or this guy. Who the fuck rocks this kind of hairstyle? This is the gold rabbit hairstyle right here. Now it don't look that good right now, but you gotta remember, I'm sleeping out in the streets because people don't want to fucking give me money. Now I do try to look good, and I have shit to make me smell good and look good. I shave down, and I'm gonna keep shaving too, until one day. Unfortunately, Daddy Beard ain't gonna come out anytime soon, guys. You know what I'm saying? Niggas are gonna have to have all kind of stuff before then. I still don't have ID and stuff. I'm truly living like a sage out here, on the corner. And I'm not even smoking Buddha. That's the thing. I ain't even out here, you know, cooling on the, gassing up, smoking weed. That comes to me at the right times and shit. Like, people think I'm just saying this shit to like sound in some type of way, but this is the truth. And I also live by the saying of, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Like, literally, this cup right here, I had to take it, right? And I had to fucking, go around and get drinks, friends, help me out, That's what I just, call that, Animals place deceptive acts. And then, like, people, like, hate people who, like, place deceptive acts. And that's perception. And then from that perception, that person's going to say, oh, I don't like you because you place deceptive acts, so I won't do this to you. Well, that person's playing deceptive acts too, Even the person that you think is all put together and has all kind of stuff, that's the funny thing. Like, people out here in America are not right. They could have all kind of shit. Like, I mean, they could have, like, they could own properties, they could own all kind of shit. But they wouldn't be like, they wouldn't love themselves. They would still feel empty inside, still yearning for something. They're like, I have all this stuff, and I'm like, and it's people like me who are actually love themselves, and actually do for themselves, do what they love to do, and they can't get by. But somebody like that, and for me, I need those people's help. The people who have all kind of stuff. They have extra shit and all kind of shit. They need to, be a little bit generous and stuff. If it's not you're not lessening yourself by helping out somebody who's, younger and trying to come up, on some money, trying to come up on, one day I want to have a fucking home. Eventually I'll show you a house on this channel. This is like later on though. I'm talking about way in the future, not way in the future, but like 5, 8, 10 years from now. I know because people fuck around too much, and including me. Because I'm looking for girls. I'm looking for right now, like today. We'll just talk about today. Because people get fucking dumb with me. Um, I'm looking for food money and transportation money. We're getting back to California. Hopefully, we can meet some people out there and get maybe a into like being a better performer. Better video quality. Better this, better that. Jobs. I don't know. You know, bitches will help me with the money. Bitches need to help me with the money. If there was anybody that they need to give fucking dollar bills to, it's Young Jackrabbit. It's Young Jackrabbit. Jackrabbit, Sir Jackrabbit, Mr. Jackrabbit, me, the Gold Rabbit. Not those other niggas and stuff. They already have all kind of stuff, girl. Like, there's no need to do that shit for them. All these niggas on the corner. I don't give a fuck who it is. Rappers, entertainers. Girls, like, don't be doing shit like that. You don't give shit to people like that. You give shit to people who, want to make a difference in their life. But you got to also see it too. And that's another thing about perception. You girls, might look at me and be like, well, I don't like a guy that, like, doesn't do this or that, or does one, or I only like a guy that does one thing and is passionate about one thing. I can't be with a guy that does this and then, out of nowhere he feels like doing this because da 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 da. You got to understand living conditions can make people not even act out of the ordinary, just do things. Like, I'm a guy, like, I've always been a guy that, like, never really, I don't know, heeded calls to, like, one type of thing. I do like, certain things more than other things. That's true. But I like to also, step outside my comfort zone a little bit and, like, not, I could, like, what I'm basically trying to say is I could talk myself out of some stuff, but I'm trying to not live like that no more. Like I'm saying, I'm trying out martial arts and shit. But we'll say this, the Go Rabbit, we'll only go up to green belt, and once we start doing that shit, right? I can't wait for these days to come and shit, and they will come, but people be playing games with me, outside on the corner, you know, especially here in Las Vegas. People are, more, they come here to spend money, um, and like for me, I'm like, why not just give your money to me? You're already coming here to spend it. But I understand it's casinos and drinks and all this other stuff. There's like all these people who are dressed nice, but there's not even there's like scrubs in here too, like actual scrubs. People who like man, they hobos from the fucking corner, like real hobos. I'm a traveling influencer. I'm like, hey, I'm Young Jackrabbit. Young Will when I'm up there talking about astrology and anime. You know, I'm the Green Angel on my other channel and Gold Rabbit down here. It's like cool. Perception though, these people here look at me and they say, that's that boy. I don't know. I'm out here trying to just have fun with my friends and stuff. I don't want to help him out. I'm just trying to like fuck this girl or you know make some money at this casino. They're not, doing that. Every once in a while there's a person that's like, yeah, I'm doing that stuff, but like I can spare some change for this animal right here. You know, it's it's all right. I'll come up on whatever. But this animal needs help, so I'll help him out. Some people just can tell when somebody needs another thing. And people also like I hear them. They're like, you're disrespectful and other things. I'm like, no, I'm not disrespectful. I'm actually very respectful by being who I am. You know, I too fuck around with these women, these dirty fucking bitches. I don't give a fuck. Porn stars who like fucking suck dick and shit, man. I want them on my dick. I don't care. You care because you want, in your perception again, you want me to walk certain ways. You want me to basically dismiss women and say, oh, they don't matter. And what you're really saying is, because you're thinking too much, or you're thinking, you're basically thinking too much if you're a guy. Many different types of ways. You think that I need something like a serious relationship, or you think that I'm seeking a serious relationship right now. I ain't doing that. You know, I fuck around until I find the right hole. I'll fuck around in this hole. I'll fuck around in this hole. I'll fuck around in this hole. I'll fuck around in that hole. And I already know these bitches. Like, I don't know them, but I have, because I'm an astrologer, y'all. You gotta chill the fuck out. Ease off niggas' dicks. I'm not some boy. I look like, younger, and I am younger than like most men, I guess. Being 25, almost 26. But, 30's coming quicker than you think. You gotta like stop fucking playing games with me. And I do happen to like seasoned girls, people who are, females who are older. You know, doing all kind of fucking stuff to these bitches. Like, yeah, see me out here and know that I am better than this. I have to like make these videos, keep making these videos. The perception, the younger guy might view me as a good person because of my other channel, and then they watch this channel and they're like, this guy's bitching a lot. What the fuck's up with that? I thought he was a guy that was more put together than this. Unfortunately, you don't understand that things take time for somebody like me. I have to find the right people and other things. I don't want people to waste my time. I don't want to lose things in the process of, because I've already don't have anything. I've already like people have said, you gotta like sacrifice something. I've already sacrificed, my time and shit mostly. So now it's time for people to just heed calls to what I fucking say. I need money, you know, jobs. YouTube's the job right now. You know, am I monetized? Not necessarily. Not yet. But I got money coming to me different ways from my friends. Angel knows about that. Green Angel knows about the money. You know, or he knows about the friends. My bad. I'm the one that knows about the money and stuff. You know, I'm not trying to live in the streets. If you want to, help me, you see me, you're like, hey, you want to get some money real quick? Of course I do. You know, don't have to die to make the money, but and I won't. I just and I hate people on my dick. Dick watchers. That's a part of perception too. If somebody sees your dick and they're like, oh, like basically they look at somebody and I'm a good looking person. Even when I'm like this, I'm still a good looking person, right? They'd be like, oh my God, I'm jealous of that person. I want to see him, fail and other things. But then there's other people out here who are like, no, you know, I like that he's a good looking person. Some people might be like, I see, my younger version in him. I want to see him, do better and succeed in other things. These are the people I need to find. I need to like dismiss that other shit, because that's not here. And like I try to keep presence and shit, and this is what I'm doing right now, talking about perception, trying to, perception. People perceive you certain ways, and then you yourself perceive the world a certain way. On my other channel, I like to use astrology, but then I like to just talk regular too, so people understand that I'm not just some like you know shaman, but I ain't even a shaman. I'm like a sage. You know, like watch these like perception again, right? Younger people like me, they don't want to admit it and shit. But for the most part, they watch TV growing up a lot, right? And they like always need their phones and shit, right? People get visual dopamine. They see some shit and they're like, God damn, I want to try something out. Based off of the shit I saw. It could be all kind of shit. The internet's full of all kind of shit. Anime, some shit that I like. Then there's sports. And you see some shit and then you're like, you get the feeling you're like, damn, and that's only if you've done sports in your past like I have. You're like, damn, I want to like throw a football around. I want to find some people and do this, or I want to get on the track and run around just because I feel like it. You know, People do shit like that. If you gotta live life, you gotta live life. But when you live life, people like to ride your dick, um, the right way or the wrong way. There's different ways to ride dick. Um, Riding my dick in the right way is heeding cause what I'm doing, and not trying to like make shit dry. You know, and that's another thing about perception. Somebody could see me as dry, um, meaning that they want to do their own thing and they want me to do what they're doing. Sometimes I don't mind doing that, but only if I'm getting something out of it. As I'm a guy that likes things. I'm an asshole. I like items to keep me grounded in reality. Bitches ain't smart. If you ain't giving me anything, I'm gonna be more childish. If you ain't giving me anything to move forward with, don't even expect me to have all kind of stuff yet. That's the vision. That's the vision board. Now, if you're seeing the vision, you don't gotta be upset. You don't gotta be like tripping about it, bitch. You just gotta like get in line and do what you're supposed to do. And maybe you're not supposed to be with me for that long. But that's fine. We can be together for a little bit of time and then make that experience. But I always say an experience needs you know a wallet to open up, a purse. I'll be your purse to open up, and so we can run around and have fun. You know, Buy drinks, do this. Shoot pool. Go to a movie, go to an event. All kind of stuff. I'm a fucking human being that lives on the corner, the USA. You know, I got like so many other states to see and other things, but oh my god, you know, I'll get the look. I'll be good. One day. Right now we're just okay because we're still living outside. We still don't got money in our pockets, and that's another thing about me. I hate spending money, and then like not having money, and that's another thing about perception. People, certain people, like to like not bring up money and shit, and to them they're like, oh, well, if you're not talking about money so much, people are more inclined to help you. You know, that's in a general sense for me, to me, as the guy I am, that's somebody who's more creative. But like, in being creative, they're not seeing what's actually there. They're taking something that's there and imagining it as something greater than what it actually is, or understanding why it's even there in the first place, and getting real deep about some shit. And I'm like, do you understand? I need things. I'm an asshole, not a pussy, not a douchebag. Those are the other types of guys. And then there's also a smartass, which I'm also a smartass too. Which is why I'm talking about perception, but not in a very, very intellectual way. That's a certain other type of person. I'm an animal, because I sleep outside and do this and do that. I have my own like morning routine that I do. I don't know if I'm gonna post that or not, but one day I might. But like if somebody saw me doing my morning routine, they might not want to be around me. They might be scared. I'll say that much. you know, just random weak ass people. Weak ass animals on the planet. Other animals will see that and be like, "Damn, that guy's really interesting." Yeah. Can I see what that does? And I want to see what. God damn, there's some fucking females out here. That look nice. But perception, it'll always be, a bad guy in somebody's book or like the greatest person in somebody's book. But there's good in the bad and there's bad in the good. That's what I actually live by. That's what I actually do as the Gold Rabbit and the Green Angel. You know, I'll give people chances, but if my time is being wasted or I feel as that such, I'll get the fuck away from you. I'll perform acts of cool or hop out of there. Like I'll move. Like you girls, like some people are like they'll listen to my astrology stuff, and when I brought up like in my Taurus video, certain qualities and other things, they like focus on certain qualities and think that, oh my god, he's gonna do that. No, bitch, like that's not what I'm gonna do. You know, take it with a grain of salt. Good things happen and bad things happen, but take a chance. Especially if you're a fucking female that likes, younger men or claims she does. We're only like, girl, we're only young, like, once, you know, bitch I, and girl I wouldn't try to like run away from this dick. You know, this world's, mm, it's fucked up. You know, sometimes in a good way, but mostly in a fucked up, you know, not so great way. Find my dick. I don't care, girl. Didn't matter how many, followers you had. Didn't matter, if you knew this people or these people. It only matters when you help me get somewhere from those connections you have, or you're putting your head down in my dick. You know, I'm fucking, I'm a douchebag too when I'm confident, but it's fine. You know, everybody else does it, so it manifests differently when I do something. Oh well, bitch, eat my dick. I ain't doing what those niggas do. I ain't doing what that white boy does. I ain't doing what fucking Asian boy does, or that Latino boy does, or even that other mixed nigga. Every man's different. You know, we all are equal as far as we get the chance to fucking breathe when we come out of our fucking mother's womb. After that, it's all fucking different. Now we do have similarities, and I ain't trying to like run away from people. But goddamn, man, you gotta like help niggas out when I say stuff. Don't play fucking games too much. We can play games too, but you gotta know when I'm playing games and when I'm not playing games. If I'm here, I'm probably not playing the games as much. Not as much. When I'm Green Angel, I'm playing games for sure. You know, or not really. I'm teaching about astrology, and I'm trying to teach perception. And you gotta know about timing. Perception and timing is what this video is gonna be about, or titled. But I probably won't get people. But I probably will eventually. In the future. But future sight. The vision is always there, but I don't know. People come to fill in the gap. You know, the questions I have were the you know I see it right, but then who gets me or who helps me get here, and when do I get here to the place I see in my mind, that's when I don't know, but people come around, and people are always here, and well, not always. I lied again, but when we are here, we gotta fucking do stuff. We aren't always here. So live life, bitch, and do it for not just yourself, but the people you want to experience it with. You know, and not just the girls, the guys too. But guys, come on, man. Like, don't hunt my dick, bro. That's all I'm saying. And don't hunt my dick wrong if you're a girl either. Like, put your girl. Oh my god. This is the end of the video. I fuck around a lot. I hop around and play games many ways. That's what this channel is about. I hop around and play games many ways. I like to do shit, y'all, on this channel. Come on, man. Like, we do stuff. You can even convince me into doing a video about us challenging each other or just talking about something, all kind of stuff. All this stuff. Yeah, it's fine. I'm fine. I'm alive at least. That's all I'm saying. I am grateful. We play games for that.